The Chinese government has always stressed China is a country ruled by law. It's spent for the past few years by setting up more law courts and giving legal aid to the most needed. But justice cannot be measured by numbers alone. Much more needs to be done to ensure that everyone enjoys the same protection under the same laws. Renmin, CCTV, Chongqing.
Well, behind the construction boom across the whole country, we see the tacit and perhaps unconditional contributions by millions of migrant workers, so to speak. I hate to label them with migrant because this word itself seems to carry some overtones of prejudice against farmers. Professor, what do you make of the way to safeguard the well-being of this large group of people? This group is described increasingly by the media as a vulnerable social group.
First, I think this is very important thing the government must do, for keeping the social justice. The government should give more attention to the weak group in the society, and the migrant workers is one form of a weak group of the people in the society. So they need more protection, need more attention to develop their ability. In China, we talked about property law, that we all have properties. But all properties are different. For example, you may have a car, a BMW, or whatever, but I have.
I don't have.
You don't have?
I can't dream of having a BMW.
But maybe tomorrow you'll have a BMW. But I have only a bicycle. All our properties are equally protected, but all properties are very different. So if the economy just goes in this way to let the rich people getting richer and the poor people getting poorer, this is not social justice. So the government should do something, to make me to buy a car in near future. Maybe not BMW, but Volkswagen, that's okay. So narrow the gap. And for the migrant workers, this is one thing. Migrant workers, they are from the countryside. They are disadvantaged group of people living in the cities. And their rights are easily to be infringed upon. So we should give them the protection. As the program shows that the legal aid and education.
The good news is that more farmers have come to realize that they got to do something to safeguard their own legitimate rights, and particularly after Premier Jiaohong himself has called for the property developers to pay back the salaries that they owe to the farmers for their construction throughout the whole country. What do you make of the progress that may have been made in this particular regard?
Well, at least we're having the discussion. And I don't think people can quite understand that. 20 years ago we weren't having this discussion. 20 years ago we weren't able to, get one thing done, a telephone call. We weren't able to make this, to be able to sit around the table and say this is a priority. And like I said, that's what's so good about this government, is they are having this discussion. They are trying to find a way forward. They have a catch-22. We need the migrant workers, just like we have migrant workers in my country, in the United States. So there's migrant workers coming from Mexico, and the big complaint is...
And also, I think that you are migrant workers in Beijing now.
Yeah, well, we're migrant workers too, that's right. So I'm a part of that group, is exactly right, that's right. And I voted with my feet to be here, and we are, should be a percentage.
That's a very interesting phrase. The migrant workers, so to speak, begin to vote with their feet. That means if you take me as the cheap laborer, I can move to another place. So I vote for my future with my own feet.
That's right. That's right. And that's the strongest vote you can possibly give. That's because you must live it in a three-dimensional way on how you're going forward with your life.
And Professor He, there is currently a labor contract law. What does that mean? What's the essence of this law?
I think that will be done next year by the standing committee of the NPC. I think they would address the problem, the dispute between the employees and employers, to give more safeguards for the workers, not only the migrant workers, but also other workers.
A couple of hours ago, I was reading an article, very interesting article, contributed by CCTV2, which is about the economics, life, and the livelihoods of the people in this country. A program is designed to interview senior people's deputies who are present here at the full session. And Mr. Wang Jinshan, the governor of Anhui province, said increasingly migrant workers from his province, which is one of the major provinces that export and import labor force, the floating population. And he says one of the prominent features that characterize the present-day migrant workers is that they are having more skills to raise their own life quality, but at the same time, they cannot get insured properly.
I think that's very important, to building up the ability, capability for the migrant workers. You have the choice. You will vote with your feet, but you have to have the ability to choose another job. Generally speaking, the workers are in a weaker position when they are dealing with the employers. It's quite common to see that you apply for a job and the employer will say, okay, this is the conditions, and even they would not sign the contract. But the worker, if you want to be a worker in the company, you want to sign contract, the employer will say no, you go to the other corporations to find another job. Yeah, so we have to give them the protection.
The protection, yeah, and that's what wasn't present. Just to tell you a quick story. When the first time I went to the Great Wall, it was on a day in which actually there were two individuals who actually blew themselves up. Okay, they actually strapped dynamite to themselves and killed themselves, they lit themselves up and blew themselves up, killing themselves and a few tourists around and injuring some other people near them. And later I asked, what was this all about? It happened before I got there, and it turned out that they didn't have options. Back then, you were assigned to a work unit. It had nothing to do. One was assigned to one part of the country, the other was assigned to the other part of the country. They felt that they would only see each other one time a year at Spring Festival, and they felt that there was no future for them.
You mean that 20 years ago?
20 years ago, there was no future. So you were assigned to different places, and as a result,
young man and young woman
who were boyfriend, girlfriend, which was again discouraged at the time, but they never thought that it would change, that we would have options and have opportunities.
But I think that's a different story.
No,
because at the time that your job will be assigned by the government.
Correct.
As state. But now you have the freedom to choose.
But that's what I'm saying. We weren't having this discussion 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But do you believe the mining workers have the freedom to choose their future, and even they have to answer the question of life and death, because some of them even got blown up and deep in the mining pit, and they are ruthless. They are rudely exploited by the owners of
the working condition is dangerous.
Exactly.
Right. So you have to face the danger when you have the job.
Right.
They don't have other choice. If they have the ability, they have to choice. I would like to be a professor at university. Then you can go. But they don't. They have to be the man worker. That's a problem.
Now, most of those who died of the mining accidents are concentrated in either Hebei or in Shanxi, because China depends on coal for 70% of its energy consumption, and this is a crazy period of time for China's energy demand. But, most of the tragedies took place because of the very bad and nasty cooperation between the local government officials and the owners of the mines. Earlier we were talking about the qualifications of the government officials. Professor He, do you believe it's necessary to hold any kind of hearings to make sure that the qualifications of government officials would live up to the expectations of the constituency?
My answer is yes. The hearing is very important, for the members of any kind of committee to make the decision. They should know the quality of the candidates. But I'm afraid sometimes they may have a hearing, but the hearing is just nominal process. This is not very significant. So I like to see the real hearing with the decision making.
All right, thank you for being with us, and thank you for your time and the views. By the end of the day, we hope that the viewers may learn more about the constitutional spirit in China. And for the first time in the Chinese history, the government and the judiciary will be put under strict supervision of the lawmaking body. The ruling Communist Party is meant to support it. But do the public have the legal awareness? John Kennedy, the late U.S. president who was assassinated in 1963 in Dallas, said in his 1961 inaugural speech, quote, "My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your own country." This is about commitments and rights. The mandate requires sense and sensibility in the current legal construction of this country. I'm Yao Rui. See you next time. Bye for now.